Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline. And joining me in studio, as always, luckily, so you got back.
This is true. Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone.
Your little business trip, and you were stuck in somewhere for a while, and we had a hurricane.
Did we plan a bye-week show? We planned a bye-week show this week?
I guess so,
I guess we've got an impromptu bye-week show. Yeah, business trip to Pittsburgh, and then canceled, and couldn't make it back.
Well, I'm glad that you got back to do this. Otherwise, we would have been doing it by phone, and you know how much I love to do that.
I do know.
With, having you by phone and trying to do a show. I love it when people call, but... yeah, anyway. So, yeah, Hurricane Matthew, it was crazy around here for the days before it. It was my first hurricane, so it was a big deal to me. I wound up taking a Xanax at one point because I was freaking out.
Stressed.
Yeah, well, they go on about it and tell you how everybody's going to die and,
Some people did.
Yeah, well,
and thoughts and
yes.
prayers, no doubt some of the Knightline listeners impacted, certainly along the coast, Brevard and Volusia counties. As I return, I really get a sense that they've been impacted in several areas.
Well, speaking of that, actually, we had put it in our notes to talk about it anyway. East Coast Paddle, who is one of our sponsors now, out of New Smyrna Beach, is, they had some issues there. I talked to Tim the other day, and he said that their dock that is there at the fish camp is gone. So, they will be obviously getting it back together, and I'm sure fairly soon, but we're still doing this this giveaway of the boat-assisted paddleboard Eco Tour for two, $110 value as part of support for Knightline. And also, now, it's really important, I think, that we do this, and we get Tim business, because he has to spend some extra money to get that dock back up. So I think this is extra important now, and I really want you guys to go to NightlinePodcast.com, UCF-NightlinePodcast.com, or NightlinePodcast.com, by the way, and sign up for this. There's a little thing on the left-hand column that says contest, and sign up for that, and it's still going to be a great thing. You'll get to see their new stuff and all that, so... It's still a good thing. We're going to hear from him at some point later on his commercial that he did for us and stuff like that. So I think that it's even more important now.
Yeah, business perhaps going to be disrupted for him as a lot of, trees down and all sorts of...
So while he supported us, now we try to support him by getting him business. And I think that is an important thing to do mutually. So... It gives us a good opportunity to do that and, support your local businesses, of course, because they hurt from this stuff. There's other businesses that I really like that are up there that, don't, do anything for us. But, there's a bunch of local businesses that we can definitely support. So I think that's a big thing. Support your local businesses, especially the ones that have had trouble with the hurricane.
I think it's funny when I think back to a week ago when we were recording the show, the post-East Carolina win that brought UCF to 3-2, the back-to-back road wins, 1-0 in the American. By the way, there's still all of those things. And we were talking about would Hurricane Matthew impact things. And remember, all those models had it going out into the Atlantic, and then it shifted and causing some damage, hundreds of millions of dollars of damage across the state of Florida. And of course, in the big significance of it, a postponement of a football game is really not a big deal. And I think UCF, and credit to Tulane, it certainly helped that they had the mutual bye week in play for November 5th. They came to a quick agreement. There's so many moving parts in this.
Yeah, it just happens to work out. I was like, well, why didn't they do it on Saturday? Blah, 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 whatever. But it's great that it worked out that we have how often does that happen? Where a team that you're going to play and it's postponed, and then you just happen to have the bye week the same week.
Well, look at what's happening now with Florida and LSU, and all of that nonsense that's going on about why they didn't play.
And then South Carolina and
Georgia
played today. Yeah. So I'm glad that they didn't have the game, even though we probably could have gotten away with it Friday night after the storm went by. It was still raining and nasty, and a little windy and stuff like that. So it wouldn't have been nearly as much fun.
Well, but there were also curfews in place. So, for example,
they lifted the curfews
by that time.
Yeah, the curfews were lifted by like 2:00 on in most Orlando and Sanford and all that kind of stuff. Yes.
So I got to tell you this: I'm in Pittsburgh, killing some time on Friday over by PNC Park, the home of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And as is typical when I'm traveling on the airplane, out and about, I try to wear UCF garb. And usually that'll get somebody will say something, gives me an opportunity to talk about the Knights. And I get a go Knights as we're walking. And guy looks at me quizzically. He's like, what are you guys doing here? And I start talking to him. And his name's Paul Hudanik. He's a sales associate with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Brother, our Knightline listeners will know, is Tyler Hudanik of the UCF cool. Knights. Yeah. And he, nice guy. And he was really glad to see us there. And once we explained we were hurricane traveled out, we really took evacuation to another level. Yeah. We went all the way to Pittsburgh. But, we were just talking about how much fun Tyler's having, and he said just a night and day difference, the same thing that we've heard over and over again in post-game comments and from others, how much his brother enjoys playing for head coach Scott Frost. And that was some nice feedback from him. And, incidentally, by the way, he knew of us and the Knightline because we had Tyler on the show.
Oh, cool.
And he says, so his family listens to the show.
Oh, great. Awesome.
So a little shout out to Tyler Hudanik and his brother Paul. Nice guy, and glad to meet him in the streets of Pittsburgh.
Very cool. Very, very cool, yeah. You never know who you're going to meet out there. I meet people a lot, and, they recognize my voice, believe it or not. So you're the podcast guy. I'm going to hashtag that here soon. Podcast guy. Yeah, hashtag podcast guy.
Well, that happened to me at Michigan. The guy next to me was like, why are you taking so many notes during the game? And I said, well, part of the Knightline podcast. He goes, oh, I listen. I live in Tampa. And he goes, which one are you? Which one are you? I go, I'm Trace. Oh, yeah. I'm the one without the frog in the throat.
Yeah.
Oh, hey!
Whatever. Yeah, that's funny. Okay. Let me clear my throat and get it a little bit better for you all.
So
anyway,
the game has been moved to November 5th. Time not yet determined. Hoping that it's a night game, though. I think fans like those Saturday night games.
I would hope that it is. With all the stuff that goes on, with the concert and all that stuff, it would be very difficult, I guess, I don't know what we're going to do when those are day games like that. We haven't, have we had one like that?
No, we haven't had a day game yet.
We haven't had one this year.
So that was supposed to be the blackout on Friday night, and I think they're still going to want that game at night, but, TV plays a role in that, so.
Yeah. You never know. I think it's still, I saw on the calendar on UCF, Knights.com, the official website of UCF Athletics. I just had to put that in there. I saw that ESPN News was still going to cover it. So I guess, they still have a contract to do that game. So I would assume, I don't know. Who knows? I hope it's at night. I don't personally dig the day games when it's hot out there.
Right. The next game is at night. Coming up in a few moments, we're joined by a Temple
Insider. I'm sure we're going to have
Insider.
One at some point this year.
Day game?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have
just
one.
hope it's not that one.
Yeah.
We've got the Temple Insider that's going to come on. Talk about the 3-3 Owls. I really feel, especially after having talked to the Insider, I feel pretty good about our chances in that game. And so that's coming up in a few moments. Get a little more preview of UCF and Temple homecoming Saturday at the Bright House. So as it turns out, right, bye week comes after 5 games, so almost the halfway point. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, it certainly wasn't scheduled that way. Bye week was scheduled a couple more weeks from now, leading up to the Houston game. You think it comes at a good time now?
I do. I think it's perfect, actually, because we have a couple of injuries that were nagging and can get fixed. Mackenzie Milton, supposedly.
Air quotes. There
who
were air
knows what's going on with Mackenzie Milton? I've heard from very reputable sources that it was just precautionary, the whole deal. He's okay. I think it's time to put him back in, and I think that this week that he had to get even better, and it's another week of practice for them, because I know that they practiced, whether indoor, I'm sure they took
or maybe
a
not
day
over the
off,
Thursday or Friday, right?
But yeah, I'm sure that they practiced probably yesterday and today. So I would not think that they would take too much time off. But yes, for the nagging injuries, I think it's great. Just to have a little bit of a rest in general. It's good to have your bye week. No matter when your bye week is, it's good to take a break. Unless, I guess, you were really, working on something and you needed. It's better to go into a bye week with a win before the bye week, as far as I'm concerned.
As that turns out, they did.
Yeah,
yep.
And that's when I played college football and went into a bye week. It was always better to go into the bye week after a win and be able to use that momentum to get you through that week, and then to move on. I think it probably was a little bit difficult for these guys, because I'm sure that they got everything ready during the week to play the game on Friday night, and then were disappointed a little bit, when it came around and they weren't able to play. These guys spend all of the off season and all of the preseason and everything getting ready to be where they're at. So when they have to sit around a week, sometimes it's not good, but I think in this instance it's probably pretty good.
Do you remember now about when the bye weeks were? What week they fell?
It's different every time.
When you played,
different every time. We had one that was really late, and we had one that was really early.
Was this about the earliest it would have been after 5 games?
Well, I think we had one year where we were like the second week was our bye week, and that's not really the greatest thing, just because you're just kind of getting into the swing of things, and then all of a sudden you have your bye week. So.
Yeah. Well, bowl projections, we're back in those, and beating East Carolina certainly helped. ESPN has still 2 different columnists there projecting the AutoNation Cure Bowl right here in Orlando at Camping World Stadium. One of the opponents, South Alabama, I have a buddy who went there, so that'll be a little jawing if that happened. And another projection has us against Appalachian State. Key thing here is that they still see us in the bowl picture. I know Brandon Helwig of UCFsports.com said on a message board sometime in the last week or so that the Cure Bowl actually didn't seem like that would line up as well.
Would you be really excited about playing with either of those teams, though? I mean, don't you want a little bit better of opponent to play during a bowl game? If you get to a bowl game, we're not there yet. The bottom could fall out of this whole thing. I don't think it's going to.
Well, but the flip on that is that UCF is as much in the East race as anybody.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the flip of this.
Absolutely. Yep.
I like the idea. If we're just comparing 2 bowl games, or maybe 3 there, where it's in the Marlins Stadium in Miami, and I know your thoughts on playing where the Rays play.
St. Petersburg, yeah.
Right?
Horrible.
If we could go down and tailgate and get another home game right down the street, I'm fine with that.
I would love to play the Cure Bowl here. That would be great.
No, I agree with you on opponent quality.
In their old home stadium before the Bright House, that would be great. And, I mean, it would be awesome because we're right here and don't have to travel and all that stuff. That would be absolutely awesome. It would totally be a home game.
Brandon was saying something, I'm going from memory here, that it didn't line up that we would be the natural fit for that bowl based on their tiered and projections there for where their teams go. All I know is I spoke with Alan Gooch, who runs the Cure Bowl, longtime UCF guy, and he was handing out Cure Bowl postcards. You remember I brought it back from Michigan.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I said to him, you'd like UCF in that game? And he goes, we certainly would.
Absolutely.
So they sold 18,000 tickets, or announced 18,000 tickets for that first game last year. And UCF would be good for more than
absolutely.
that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Would I like a better opponent? Yeah, and there's certainly some destinations you wouldn't mind going to. But again, I think the 3 choices are Cure Bowl in Orlando, Tropicana in St. Pete, or Miami Marlins Bowl. I think I'd like to stay local.
Right. So the Cure Bowl, is it MAC or Sun Belt? Which one? It's one of those two.
Sun Belt, I guess. South Alabama's in the Sun Belt. Yeah. So that game's December 17th, 7 o'clock. But 5 games in, and you're right. Could go anywhere. Could not get to a bowl, but I think there's still some conversation there that they're in the East race. I mean, nobody. Look at that.
I'm the pessimist. I mean, I am the pessimist.
Well,
I like to caution people.
there,
well, I'm definitely a realist. I mean, but I'm also a little bit of a pessimistic realist.
Pessimistic.
So
So is that glass half full, half empty, or is it broken? What's going on?
Well, it's half empty most of the time. But yeah, totally, it is. It's half empty. I just want to remain, after all of the disappointment of last year and the getting all excited for this year and all of the new stuff and, everything, I hate to be let down at the end of it by, something that you got too hopeful over.
But isn't it a case, though, when you think now...
Because nobody expected us to be where we're at right now.
Right? So the changing expectations game, when we were talking about, well, what would be good? 6, obviously, to go from 0 to 6 would be really good, right? But we said 3-4 wins because we didn't know what we were going to see, right?
Got those
and now when you're at 3-2, which may have been what some people projected, 3-4 wins.
Yeah.
Now, if you finish 3-9, doesn't quite feel as good, right? So
yeah. And I don't think that that's going to happen, but I just am cautious of you never know what's going to happen. And I would just be, I just would rather be the air of caution than not. I mean, obviously, I want UCF to win the rest of the games. That would be absolutely awesome.
We've had fun, though, so far, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
Even in defeat with that Maryland game, that was a lot of fun.
That was a moral victory as well. And I know people don't like moral victories, but that was definitely a moral victory. What would have happened if we didn't have those 5 turnovers in that game? Mm-hmm. We would have destroyed them.
And college football is a funny thing, right? Maryland goes to Penn State, loses pretty handily, and Penn State's not the best team. How about Michigan? Michigan beat Rutgers 78-0.
Right. Well,
right?
We're not nearly as bad as Rutgers, obviously.
No.
So,
but it shows you that Michigan's still in the thick of things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know who's not in the thick of things anymore is Houston.
Well,
yeah, they tumble.
And that's another good thing to I know that there's some people that like to root for our teams that are in our conference to do well. I'm not one of those people either. I think that I'll root for anybody. I'll root for anybody that is rooting against USF. I can tell you that.
Yeah, of course.
Whoever's playing them. Right. I'm a UCF fan, a Kansas fan, and anybody who's playing USF or K-State or Missouri.
You've got a lot of teams you want to see lose there.
Yeah, so it's a little weird like that. So, but where were we going? Okay, yeah, talking about the Houston thing. I'm glad that Houston lost, to be honest with you, because I think that the whole thing was getting too much of the balloon effect. Everything was going perfect for them. Everything, they were obviously, the Big 12's first choice and all this stuff, and, they're the best of the American, and they don't belong with us, and they're way better than everybody else, and Tom Herman is a god, and all this stuff. Well,
46-40 later, lost to Navy, and some of that's been
and it's
burst,
not
right?
like they got blown out by them.
Gave up nearly 50 points to Navy, though.
Right, but I mean,
like our chances in that game better now too. By the way,
the score difference, absolutely, the score difference wasn't 52-3 or something,
right.
So
it wasn't 78-0.
It wasn't that bad. I do like our chances a lot better in that game with Houston now. Absolutely. I mean, if they're not undefeated, at least it shows you can beat them, and they just showed how you can beat them as well. And I think, they had some turnover issues and stuff like that. I think their quarterback threw some interceptions and all that to make that happen.
You sounded glass half full there.
Well, sometimes maybe I'm bipolar. I don't know. I could be.
No comment. But remember, Houston is fallible.
I've taken the tests, actually, and I'm not. No? But anyway.
Houston's
clinically.
Houston's fallible because they lost at UConn last year. Remember? So that was a 13-1 season. They beat Florida State in the bowl game, but they had that one blemish in American play against a team that they were projected to beat.
Do you think Scott Frost has watched the tape from that game yet?
He didn't have anything to do the last couple of days.
Yeah. I bet that he probably has, and he's working on how he's going to up Tom Herman. I think that there probably would be a bit of a rivalry between those two, just because they're the coaches that came from big Power 5 schools, head coaches, Tom Herman's got a year on him, as a head coach for the first time, but I would think that those guys would have a little bit of a rivalry that,
I think you got to play at least one game.
Yeah,
against each other before you get to that.
I think that there will be satisfaction to whoever wins that game.
Certainly, and we've had Houston's number. Well, not last year, but we had those other games where we had
last
Houston.
year was a complete...
Everything last year,
I mean,
you just dismiss.
Right. I mean, absolutely. Obviously now, and that's another thing. Obviously you dismiss a lot of what happened. The good point. You dismiss a lot of what happened last year. We're learning that now. We were not an 0-12 team last year with the players that we still have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We still have the majority of those same players from last year, and now we know for sure, with 3 wins, that we were not that bad. So it goes back to the whole thing is what we were saying before during last season is, I think that those players really gave up on the system and everything else. And it was an I don't care kind of thing going on.
Well, a challenge for a league like the American and a program like UCF is to be consistently good year in and year out. And the American teams kind of go up and down a little bit. For example, UCF's homecoming opponent this coming Saturday, 7:30, Bright House, is Temple, who had a really good year last year, put some guys into the NFL. They're 3-3. They lost 34-27 at Memphis in their most recent game, 1-1 in the American, and they are a beatable team. Looks like early line has UCF as a 1-point favorite in that game. So Vegas and the odds makers are starting to come around a little bit to the Knights as well. Should be a big crowd as long as weather,
Well, they should, because I think that
and
they've probably lost some money. On not making those lines maybe as close as they needed to be or as far as that they needed to be. So
they're making an adjustment. Well, when we come back from this quick break, let's dive into Temple and hear from our insider and what he thinks about the Owls.
Hello, Knight Nation. This is Tim Baker with East Coast Paddle, owner, operator, and fellow UCF alum. East Coast Paddle is located in Orlando's favorite beach town of New Smyrna Beach. East Coast Paddle is rated by TripAdvisor as the #1 rated water tour activity in New Smyrna. We are most known for our boat-assisted paddleboard eco tours. This is a 2-hour dock-to-dock experience like none other on the island. You'll paddle with manatees, dolphins, and have a chance to see many of the 4,000 species that inhabit our lagoon system. So take professional pictures throughout the tour that are sent directly to your email at no additional charge. This is not all we have to offer. Traditional paddleboard rentals delivered to your location, paddle fit classes, and several fishing options. Please reach out to us at 386-402-8585 or visit us at our website, eastcoastpaddle.com, or follow us on Facebook at East Coast Paddle or Instagram at EastCPSUP.
5 questions with an insider, getting to know this week's opponent.
Sean Pastor has been covering Temple football and basketball since 1989. He was the founder and editor of Owl Scoop before starting Owls Daily, the Temple site on Scout.com. Sean, thanks for joining us again on the Knightline podcast.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you again.
Temple's 3-3 overall, 1-1 in the American, following last week's 34-27 loss at Memphis. Talk about the Owls season so far.
Phil, in general, it's funny. So last year was just like the dream season for Temple. Everything went perfectly, and they had the 7-0 start and won the division, played in the championship game, and went to the bowl game. There was a lot of expectation that this year, they lost some of the major guys on defense from last year. They lost a couple of their big play guys on offense, but still, I think the feeling was they're going to, carry on. And while they might, maybe USF was a preseason favorite and it's kind of a wide open East, that they were going to be right there. Thus far, it's really been a pretty challenging start. They've had some injuries to key guys. They've lost a few guys now for the season. And just pretty much the last 3 weeks, they've lost another guy for the season. They've sort of taken care of business against the 3 weak teams that they've played, Stony Brook, Charlotte, and SMU in the AAC opener. And then when the competition's been a little tougher, they lost at Penn State. They lost that game in Memphis. And then they had the season opening game against Army was just the unexpected. They came out of the gate, and again, I think, as I sort of mentioned, they had issues with injuries at the start, and they kind of got stunned by Army in that opener. So it's been a sort of a tough start. I think they expected to be in a better position, and they're kind of, they're still in the hunt, so they kind of just got to keep on getting better from here.
Well, speaking of Memphis, just looking at the stats from the last game, you'd think that Temple rolled 27 first downs to Memphis's 15, and quarterback Philip Walker was 36 of 59 for 445 yards. Talk about Walker's play and his targets at wide receiver.
Yeah, they really put together sort of, they changed the offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator from last year moved on to become a head coach at Tennessee Tech. The quarterback coach, Glenn Thomas, who had been the quarterback coach for the Atlanta Falcons previously, and he had been a coordinator at the Division II level. He's now the new coordinator. And so they kind of switched things up a little bit. They're a little more multiple this year, and I think there's been some there was a little bit of a transition period. Last year they really relied on, they were just lining up and running the ball and setting up play action. They're spreading the ball this year and doing a lot more things. They thrown some wildcat in there. So as all that sort of come together, it really probably wasn't until this past week where numbers-wise it generated, the offense that they were expecting or hoping to build towards. And Philip Walker now, it was P.J. Walker. He now goes by Philip Walker. He put the numbers together, but he has a great night against Memphis, but they give up a kickoff return for a touchdown. Walker has one ball that's intercepted that gets returned for a touchdown, and the defense really has a strong game against a really good Memphis offense, but they break down on one play, give up a 71-yard touchdown. This all happens in a span of about 5-6 minutes in the third and fourth quarter, and they had been leading up until late in the third quarter, and they just kind of blew the game there.
What about the targets at wide receiver? Who should UCF be most concerned about? And as well, talk a little bit more about the running game. Temple putting up 86 yards last week, and that's been a UCF strength on defense. Talk about wide receivers and the running game.
Yeah, so, Temple's primary offensive weapon is still Jihad Thomas, who held that role last year. Interesting thing is that he has been he's part of sort of the different things they're now doing. He is splitting out a lot. He's catching a lot of balls, not just in the backfield, but lining up in 4 and 5 receiver sets. At the running back position, he is splitting time with Raquel Armstead, a sophomore, who looked pretty good as a true freshman last year. He's more of the power guy with good speed. Jihad Thomas is the classic guy who just makes people miss. So he's really become a primary receiving target as well. Their top receiver from last year was Robbie Anderson, who's from Fort Lauderdale. He started for the Jets today against the Steelers. So he's moved on, and so those are huge shoes to replace. It's sort of they got a committee of guys who are all do a little bit here. No star yet, but Ventel Bryant is probably Walker's other top target. They've got a couple of guys who play slot back. Broderick Yancey had a big game against Memphis. The issue with the receivers to some degree is that they've had some drop problems over the course of the year. They pop up one week where the 3 or 4 drops. Then they have a good week. This past week against Memphis, funny thing is, so they throw for 440-something yards, and Walker completes 36 passes, but he probably had 4 or 5 drops that were key throughout the game. So those guys got to be a little more consistent.
Let's shift to the defense now. Overall, Temple is ranked 18th in the country, 12th against the pass. How do the Owls create challenges for opposing teams?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So, statistically it's tough because they open against Army, which runs the ball 60 times for 300-something yards and only throws 5 passes. They've played a couple other teams in Stony Brook and Charlotte to some degree that really couldn't even create a whole lot of time for the quarterback to throw the ball. So in those few games, they've just put up such tremendous numbers in terms of stopping the pass that you can't tell statistically, where they are exactly. The defense, again, lost 3 guys who are now in the NFL. They've also lost a couple of guys. Sean Chandler was probably the top returning guy on the defense. He had been at corner last year. They moved him to safety this year because they wanted him to affect plays all over the field. A couple of weeks ago, he was hurt and is most likely out for the season. They rotate a lot of guys on the defensive line, but they've lost a couple of those guys for the year. And those were 2 spots where they thought they'd have a lot of strength. They're young at linebacker, where they lost Tyler Matakevich, who's with the Steelers, and he was the National Defensive Player of the Year last year. So they expected to kind of be coming along there, but now they really need those linebackers to be coming on pretty strong. They did, for 3 quarters against Memphis, they gave their best defensive, I think, look of the season. And it's just a matter of they've had games where they're giving up the big play. So they have faced, like UCF, they faced a lot of spread offenses in the last few weeks. But I think every spread offense is different. UCF probably runs out of that spread look a lot more than Memphis or Charlotte would have done, or certainly SMU does. So it'll be a different sort of flavor. But they've certainly gotten the feel of how you have to line up and playing against teams that play tempo. I think they're well schooled in that regard. They just need to stop giving up the big plays.
So 3-3 halfway through the season. You know this team. Can they make a run in the East? Or bowl bid is likely. What's your sense of the second half of the season for Temple?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the next couple of weeks will tell that tale. Do they have it? Yeah. When you look at the race right now, the way that Connecticut and Cincinnati right now kind of stumbled, and ECU, all 3 of those teams are going to have to get on a major run to get in the hunt. So then in the division, you're looking at Temple, UCF, and USF, and Temple's next 2 games are up here at UCF, and then they come home to play USF. So in terms of can they get in the hunt, they win the next 2 games, they're in great shape, and then they're kind of rolling downhill. If they don't take care of business, then they'll certainly be scrambling to lock down those 6 wins to get a bowl bid. Again, it's hard to judge again because they've played 3 weak teams and beat them all soundly, and then they've played 3 quality teams, and Army's looking decent this year, and they didn't come through. So I don't know what happens when they start playing those other sort of mid-level teams. That'll tell the tale.
All right. Thank you very much, Sean. We appreciate you getting with us and talking with us this week. I hope that this turns out to be a good game for everybody and nobody gets hurt and it's a quality matchup. Good luck, and we will talk to you again hopefully next year because we'll be playing each other again. So
I tell you guys, I'll be down there this weekend for the game, so hopefully I will talk to you then.
There are so many ways to connect with Knightline. You can like us on Facebook at Knightline Podcast or follow us on Twitter at UCF_Knightline. Check out our website at www.ucfnightlinepodcast.com for recruit spotlights, archived episodes, and more. Or, of course, you can always call us at 407-401-9184. That's 407-401-9184. Listen whenever and wherever you are on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or tune in. Go Knights and charge on! Now, back to Knightline with Andrew and Trace.
Hey, didn't we used to voice that?
We did.
Wow, she's pretty good.
Yeah, so obviously you guys have heard her voice for quite a while. I've got some more stuff done by her. She has my favorite voice of all. That is Tracy Wild from Tracy Wild Voiceovers online there. I think it's tracywildvoiceover.com. And, if you're needing any voiceover work, she does it. She's awesome. I listened to her on the radio when I was in my college years and all that stuff, and I've become friends with her over time. And when I wanted somebody to do voiceovers for this, besides us, I only thought of one person. So
I'd like to talk to her about maybe doing the outgoing message on my voicemail. And now, leave a message for Trace.
You could. She would do it. In fact, she's going to do our voice prompts on our phone when you guys call in for the Knightline post-game live, you will hear her from now on. So not my voice. A couple of y'all don't like my voice, so you'll hear her voice from now on, telling you to please hold, and your call will be ordered or answered in the order
your call will be
received.
ordered.
Yeah,
well, that's coming up, now we're just 2 weeks away from that. We'll be doing the next post-game live following the game at UConn, Saturday, October 22nd. Of course, before that, we heard the insider previewing Temple homecoming Saturday, October 15th at 7:30. Temple at the Bright House. Colors of the game, I had to look this up. It's the black and gold combination. You can wear black or gold, it seemed, from that diagram.
Yeah.
And the pregame concert
I don't like
series.
this color combination thing. I don't like
this
it.
week's or you
Any of it. I don't like it.
You went out and bought a white shirt. Though.
I know. I want to wear what I want to wear when I want to wear it. Period.
No, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
They're doing a pretty good job of getting that
I don't
coordinated.
own anything that's gold. This is another. I'm going to have to go out and buy another jersey.
Do you see the method behind their madness?
They're trying to sell their merchandise. This is ridiculous. I feel like I'm being
No, it was
duped.
black or gold. Look at that diagram.
Well, that's good because I'm wearing black.
I thought you would wear
or
black,
I might wear my $90 white jersey.
It really messed things up. It really messed things up. Pre-game concert series, Better Than Ezra.
Yeah.
I remember them.
Yeah, that should be pretty cool, actually. I might have to actually go down there and watch that one.
Yeah.
I might have to... You can bring a beer down there, I guess.
Yeah, this is how you determine where you can roam freely on the UCF campus based on that.
Yep.
Back to the American. We talked about that Navy win. Some other winners. Cows won again. By the way, they're top of the East. They're 5-1. Their only loss was to Florida State. They rolled over East Carolina. Tulsa rallied 43-40 win over SMU in overtime. I watched some of that on TV.
So now they have the same record as Houston. They're 5-1.
Except, they're in the East.
Yeah, but I mean, still 5-1 and 5-1.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And what else was interesting, by the way? We talked about the agreement on anytime you can bash them. They played their homecoming game, an announced crowd at Raymond James, 16,585.
And there was probably
this was their actual attendance. They announced much more than that, but
there was probably less than that there though.
Was 16,585
of their fans.
Well, I don't know about that.
Of their tickets sold.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think it was more like 5,000.
Yeah, so
anyway,
goody for them. And
whatever.
UConn, pretty good one over Cincinnati. So, Cincinnati, year in and year out, you hear they're going to contend in the East, and they don't do much of anything. And then we talked about Temple falling to 3-3 after losing to Memphis. Memphis is 4-1 out in the West, so don't sleep on Memphis. Coming up week 7, Navy at East Carolina, Memphis at Tulane, Tulsa at Houston, UConn at Tampa U.
Now, what is... I'm going to ask this question, and we're going to have to look it up or something. What is Navy's...
Where's the intern?
What is Navy's record?
I don't know that.
Well,
they lost to Air Force last week.
We need to look this up, I guess.
Well, you effort that.
You talk about what's going on this week.
On campus or across for UCF Sports.
Right.
Men's tennis continues to play at the Houston Open. That's through Sunday, October 16th. Women's soccer is at UConn on Thursday, October 13th. Volleyball also at UConn, Friday, October 14th. Cross country is over in Tampa. They call this something else that refers to their actual name, but I'm just going to refer to it as the Cows Invite. Fall ball continues for softball, October 14th against Florida Tech, 6 o'clock at the UCF Softball Complex. Men's soccer's in Tulsa, 8 o'clock match against Tulsa, Saturday, October 15th. More volleyball. This time they're in Philly against Temple, so a lot of Temple this coming weekend. They play Temple Sunday, October 16th. Men's golf in action at the Tavistock Collegiate Invitational in Orlando, Sunday, October 16th. And rounding things out for the week, women's soccer, they're at Temple. As I mentioned, everybody's in Philly. It seems like the same time as volleyball, though. Same time as that game on Sunday, October 16th. So that's a look at your Knightline planner.
I'm confused at everything that you just said. Anyway, too much Temple in there.
Too much
So,
Temple.
yeah, Navy is 4-1. They've already had their bye week, I guess.
Their loss was Air Force.
Their only loss was Air Force. They've won handedly a few times. Connecticut was pretty close, actually, 28-24, but 52-16 over Fordham. Tulane 21-14. Air Force lost 28-14, and then Houston, they won 46-40. So they've had some close contests there. I don't think that they're the Navy of last year because they don't have their quarterback.
But Navy's always consistent. And
Navy's consistent, yeah. They're definitely probably the Academy's, best.
Air Force will say otherwise after beating them a couple weeks ago. But you're right. I mean, they're always an 8-9 win team.
Right, yeah. I mean, they're the most consistent of the academies, I should say.
And if the schedule plays out as we anticipate it will, UCF will play them in 2017 because we have not yet faced them.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because they go fast and rush a lot, and we go fast and rush a lot. And I think the rushing numbers could be huge in that game.
It could be huge. So now it's interesting as we get to the second half of the season, we'll start to pay more attention to the standings and the race there, and who's the favorite in the East and the West, and something to watch for.
It's getting a little bit more interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
a few wins in a season where you weren't sure what was going to happen, and it gets a lot more interesting.
And you know that builds confidence for the student athletes as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So,
hey, what's going on with the Big 12 expansion? It's your favorite topic.
I don't know. Trace, tell us what's going on.
I know
I'm not talking about
it. Online speculation. You're going to like this one. Floating that Nebraska wants into what I call now the Big 12 -2. And that Nebraska wants out of the Big 10. That's really the Big 14. These conferences can't seem to do any simple math. Big 12 -2 president's meeting begins October 17th.
Well, that's crazy. Why would you let somebody in? There's no way that they would do that.
That was the hot online speculation.
Yeah, but somebody that left
wrote
and screwed the whole thing up in the first place, and then now they want back.
Well, but if you're the Big 12, would you rather have that Nebraska back with those natural rivals, Oklahoma State, Kansas?
Well, I mean, I guess it would,
right?
Yes,
you want them back
if you're looking at it like that, it would make sense. But if you're looking at it like she left and now she wants me back,
I get you.
If you put it in those kind of terms, and I'm sure there's some butthurt people, about that situation in the Big 12.
They may think there's more money to be had by having
I'm
Nebraska
sure there
in there.
Probably is. I mean, I thought, since Nebraska was an original, Big 8 member, that they would never have left in the first place.
Doesn't it seem like that was a weird fit for them?
It was
going over to the Big 10.
I have no idea.
The Big 14.
I mean, obviously, it was a money issue or whatever, but they're not doing so well over there. So,
and by the way, Texas lost again. So
yeah,
they're.
What about Charlie Strong? I mean, what do you think? His do you think that light is flashing in the corner of his eye? About to get fired.
He got the
Texas Oklahoma's a big game.
He got the confidence from the athletic director.
Yeah,
express confidence. Yeah, that's normally bad.
Right,
it's like going on the SI.
Well, what do you think
his
confidence is now after that? I thought that maybe we would already have heard. Maybe tomorrow. You never know. Tomorrow week is Monday, and Monday is when stuff usually happens. So you never know.
Nah,
I don't know.
Not in season like that. Nah.
They've done it before.
I know.
I mean, look at what LSU did, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. With Les Miles.
They've handled that so poorly there.
If
they wanted him gone, make the move.
Yeah. They've been talking about it for, remember last year, it was the same thing, back and forth, and then, whatever. It's just, I just think that the whole coaching carousel, yes, it's exciting. The whole Big 12 thing, yes, it's exciting, but, it's so much drama, that, let's focus on football and not all the drama that's in all these, extra stories.
But when you say that drama, and I know when we were talking about it earlier, you were talking about it's like a soap opera, right? This conference just seems like a mess with some of the decisions that they make. Some of the way the leadership seems to approach things. And
you're talking about the Big 12?
Big 12,
yeah. So
I know we
still
want
people listen. Do you really want to be involved in that?
I think UCF fans really want to be in that upper echelon, those Power 5 conferences.
Obviously.
But when you look at this conference
and
you think about these road trips and the natural rivalries.
That's not the one.
You live in Kansas. You know where it is.
I have been saying that.
It's not got a natural those schools that are right there, right? Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Iowa, they're all right there. They're going to have a team out in Cincinnati and us maybe. And
I would really like to hold out, and I've been saying this for a long time. I'd like to hold out for either SEC.
No, it's never going to happen.
I think it is going to happen though, because they're going to go to 16 at some point.
Florida doesn't. They don't want us in there.
Or the ACC.
Florida State and Miami don't want us in there.
I know. I understand.
That's why Big 12 is still on our radar.
But I don't. I just don't think that that's the best place to go.
No, I agree with you.
I mean, where else are you going to go?
I mean, you're running out of places to go.
The Do we fit into the Pac-12?
No.
No.
Or the Big Ten.
Or the Big Ten? No.
Michigan and Wisconsin.
Yeah. So,
October 17th, the presidents meet, and I don't think we're going to learn anything new. Right?
I don't know.
You think there's going to be a press conference here coming up in the next...
I hope that there's something. One way or the other, I would like to hear something. I'd like to just get it done with.
I agree with you.
The conversation over. Done. Finished.
Finite.
Complete.
How about the Knights in the NFL?
Speaking of done, no. Looks like Brandon Marshall, 8 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown and a loss to Pittsburgh. Detroit kicker Matt Prater with the winning field goal for the Lions, 24-23 over Philly. And our boy Latavius Murray, we were kind of watching and wondering why he wasn't out there, but I guess we figured out that he has a toe injury and was not playing this week. I hope that is something easily...
Turf toe?
Well, I didn't say turf toe, but normally when you have a toe injury in football, it's turf toe.
That's can be a slow healer, right?
It can. Yeah. I mean, remember what happened with Stanback that year.
Yeah.
And he, and speaking of him, by the way, we don't really talk too much about our players that have gone on to other places, but he's having a great year at the little small school.
Division II, right?
Or lower. I'm not sure.
Is it lower than that?
It could be Division III. I'm not sure. There's one under, yes. That people don't hear about very often. It's like Virginia Commonwealth,
Virginia
maybe,
Union?
or Virginia Union. I'm
it?
not sure, but anyway, he's having a heck of a year. Of course, because he's like
I imagine he's pretty good at that level.
Division I player playing with all these guys that.
I hope he's happy and having fun on the field and doing things in the classroom the way he should be.
Absolutely. So, and Blake was off this week.
And he only got picked twice. Now I like Blake.
He only threw 2 interceptions on his off week, No, I think he'll get it together. And I was talking to you about this before we went on the air. I'm excited because I can't wait. Latavius Murray and Blake are both going to be going into the end of their, Latavius this year will be the end of his rookie contract, and I hope that someone else takes a chance on him because I hate the Raiders, and I don't like him playing for the Raiders, and I would love to cheer him on.
Because you're a Chiefs fan?
Because I'm a Chiefs fan, exactly.
Yep.
And I also honestly would like to see Blake go to a team that is capable of winning a little bit more than that team is. I've kind of picked Jacksonville as my Florida team.
Same here. Yeah.
But they're hard to root for. Just because of all the issues and mistakes, and it just doesn't ever. This year was supposed to be so much better for them, and it just doesn't ever seem to get better. Last year, towards the end of the season, they had made true progress. Blake had a great year. I mean, top of the quarterbacks. It's
not all him. It's not all on him.
No.
He does make some
mistakes. That's what I'm saying. It's not on him. And he's very hard on himself. And, like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, he was like, it's all on me. It's not all on you. It's on what's around you and possibly even the ownership and, the the front office. I mean, it's definitely not. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Volleyball swept at home by Tulane on Sunday after the Knights swept Houston on Friday in a match that moved to Tampa because of Hurricane Matthew. The Knights are 4-2 in the American, 14-5 overall.
Women's soccer draws at the Cows 1-1. Schools split the War on I-4 rivalry points. South Florida U leading the overall competition now over UCF 9-6 in points. Women's soccer is 1-1-1 in American play, 6-5-1 overall.
Men's soccer drops a 3-2 match on the road at Memphis. That followed a 1-0 win over Northwestern. UCF is 1-2 in American play and 3-6 overall.
21st ranked women's golf notched its third consecutive top 10 finish, taking 5th at the Cougar Classic in South Carolina.
Cross country finishes second in the FSU Invitational in Tallahassee.
Women's tennis, several singles and doubles wins over the weekend at the Florida Gulf Coast Invitational.
Practice is underway for men's basketball.
That's just around the corner.
Yeah, that could be interesting this year. We're going to have to see what happens. I think it's going to take a couple of years, but I think the quality of the product is going to be better from the start. I think it's going to take a couple of years to really build it up. But I think that you're going to see a difference in the quality of product.
Let's
is what
hope
I'm
so.
trying to say.
Let's
Did
hope
I
so.
say that
yeah.
2 times all the way through? I said that's exactly.
It made perfect sense.
Whatever.
Hey, we're on a bye week.
Yeah, it's a bye week. It has been a long week, and I think that we're going to keep this fairly short. I know that we're getting down to the time that close to the time that we normally cut this whole deal off. But
so coming up, homecoming, Temple, Saturday night, 7:30. I think the Knights have a good chance to pull out that W at home.
Yeah, and soon we will have a time for that our next road game where we'll be doing Knightline post-game live. I really love doing that, by the way.
Yeah, no time yet. It's probably coming out Monday. We'll probably know that Monday.
It has been an absolutely awesome thing to do. There's the music. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the heart. Victory is